more people.
Canelo eventually lands the huge uppercut in the 8th round and damages the eye badly. I'm seeing reports this morning that he has multiple orbital fractures.
Has that been verified by X-rays? Because it's one thing for a promoter
unless they
to say,
post the unless they post the X-rays, I'm going to assume that until we see evidence, it's TBD.
That's right. You're right, Ken. It's so important.
Of course he's gonna say he has a broken orbital bone. He
not only that, the promoter too. So I'm not calling Hearns a liar.
We don't believe you. You need more people.
Well, it looks like Teddy don't believe Billy. Well, he has his doubts anyway. Billy said he suffered multiple fractures to the orbital area, broken cheekbone, but people have their doubts. Is this just damage control to make the retirement in the corner look a little more acceptable? I don't know. You tell me. While in Mexico, Fernando Vargas, he had this to say.
You're really gonna do that? Over my eye! It was like this, man. It was like this. Come on, Vato, really? Really, Vato? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How dare you call yourself a champion and you quit like a freaking female dog? How dare you do that? You embarrassment to the sport. You're an embarrassment to the sport and to all men because you're not even a man. Unbelievable. You guys should be embarrassed.
Tom Little, a heavyweight, he offered Eubank a 20 grand straightener in Brighton. Well, you know, Eubank's actively fighting and earning good purses. Tom might need the 20 grand. Eubank is on the cusp of some world-class fights. Not sure if he'll make it or not, but that's where he is. What's that going to do? Threatening Eubank, is that going to make him stop taking shots at Billy Joe Saunders? No, it's not. Why don't you just go up to Brighton and do what you got to do? Not being funny, yeah? People don't like getting threatened like that. Look, the consequences will be the consequences, and I'll say no more than that for now. There you are, wanting to fight for Billy Joe Saunders, who was talking about using Viagra in reference to Chris Eubank Jr.'s mum. Did you see Chris get over emotional when he did that? No. And now you guys want to get all emotional? The truth is, IFL give that mic to too many people who really, don't deserve to have their voice heard as much. And Tom Little is one of them. Tom Little is one of them. Let him go make videos on his own channel. Or Tom Saunders. Tom Saunders was out of his depth all throughout the build-up of this fight. He was out of his depth. You see, a lot of people, they're saying, oh, well, Billy's entitled to demand more money from Eddie, request a bigger ring, and a British judge. And yes, that's all true. He's entitled to do all that, I agree. The thing is, though, he shouldn't be doing it. And Tom Saunders is not paid for that. He's not management. His management is Daniel Kinahan / MTK. That's his management. They should be doing that. And it should be kept out of the public domain online. If they were serious requests, the ring, well, in hindsight, the size of the ring was inconsequential to how the fight ended. Colin Hart from the Sun newspaper, he said Billy Joe Saunders could be fighting Canelo Alvarez in a ring the length and breadth of a football pitch, and he still wouldn't have enough room to avoid the magical Mexican savage accurate punches. And this is before the fight. This ain't after. This is before the fight. As for the requests for a British judge, that was inconsequential at the final conclusion of the fight. Plus he made an $8 million purse. If these were real concerns, they're all concerns that could have been handled outside of the public glare. But Tom Saunders acted like an idiot all throughout, shouting at Eddie, shouting online, Tyson Fury, all helping to rile up Billy. Billy probably filled with all types of anxiety because he's just got idiots all around him. And in the end, it was an embarrassing campaign, you know what I mean? Like, all Billy sympathizers, you can complain all you like. He's not going to live this one down for a long time. Just like a lot of boxers never lived it down for a long time. Adrian Broner, when he lost to Marcus Maidana, he just had to eat it and eat it and eat it. Anthony Joshua never smack talked to nobody on that level. And when he lost, it was relentless. Yeah? He's going to have to take his roasting like a man. The man was pointing to his heart when he was talking to Canelo. You ain't seen no gypsy with no heart like this. You know, Tyson Fury all through the fight. You ain't fought no Gypsy the Heart, the fighting Gypsy Heart. And now everybody's calling him a coward because when Tom Saunders got bundled to the floor, you see, big grown man acting like an idiot, like an idiot, like an idiot. And look what happened to him in the end, because he kept getting away with his stupidity. And then he rushed out there when there was no reason to. The medical staff were in control of Billy's situation. Mark Tibbs was in control. He had no business running out there. Big grown man like that getting bundled down on the floor. Embarrassing. Big 6 foot how much Tyson Fury, he's out there like, yeah, look, we're the hard firm. And when Billy Joe Saunders' dad was getting rushed out there, he put his hand across the rail like that was going to do anything. There were entourage members from Billy Joe Saunders who jumped over the rail and went to have a go. They weren't successful at that, but at least they had a go. What did Tyson Fury do? For all this talk that he's this hard nut, I offered the AJ a straightener and he backed out. Well, he certainly didn't want to get involved there. Maybe he was protecting all the millions that he's going to get from the AJ fight. Can't blame him for that. Perhaps even he knows that Tom Saunders is a little bit of a tool. And then to cap it off, Tyson Fury's dad this week, who's been so jealous of AJ's success and tries to cover it up. Oh, I'm glad for him, really. But, he's had it all his own way. He's the golden boy. He's the golden boy because he did what was required to be the golden boy, not because he was done any favours. You know what I mean? I went down a rabbit hole the other month because on the suggestion feed on YouTube, I saw this guy, and it wasn't Mickey Theo, he wanted to get John Fury. And apparently, there's loads of people, from when he said he's the hardest 50-plus-year-old man and all that, they want to get him, and they're in the UK. They're gunning for him. This week, Mickey Theo, he revealed footage of him, John Fury, getting knocked out by Henry Akinwande and Steve Garber, the journeyman. And the film footage is immaculate, like they got it from the television studio. They must have got that from the TV studio. You know what I mean? Mickey must be pretty connected. You see, back then in the United Kingdom, like if you go up north, they'd have their version of ITV, central area, Manchester, Liverpool, and them areas there. And you get the central area title fights and stuff like that. And that's where them fights, what John Fury had, were broadcast. They were broadcast up north. Them fights weren't televised in London. But Mickey got hold of them. John's getting laid out. So all that, I'm the hardest 50-plus-year-old man, gonna fight Mike Tyson and Holyfield. This is what happens. If you try and act too hard, there's gonna be people out there who are gonna try and bust the myth. If you overdo it, there's gonna be people out there trying to bust the myth. And I think a lot of people have had enough of this I'm a bad man shit. I think a lot of people have just had enough of it right now. To succeed in modern day boxing, you need to be able to fight. Michael Hunter ticks that box. And then you also have to have no shame. You can't afford to have shame. You've got to let your matchmakers and your management do their job. Second box for Michael Hunter ticked. He has no shame. He has no problem dealing with your disapproval at his choices. Now, look, it's getting to him a little because he's getting a lot of stick. So much so that he closed off comments on his Twitter account. Closed them off. So it's getting to him, but not enough for him or his team to get in the ring with HRGOVIC for the money that's on offer. No siree. Listen, I don't have no criticism of Michael Hunter taking on Michael Wilson rather than HRGOVIC. I don't. It's the people who put all that expectation on him. They pushed him up to be the modern day boogeyman. They put him up there to be the modern day throwback fighter. They did that. So don't be mad with Michael Hunter. I told you the state of play already. So that's the second box ticked. No, he's got no shame. And now, why fight an eliminator with HRGOVIC, a high risk reward fight, when the belts look like they're going to be tied up till when? Yeah, put some loot in Mike's pocket, fight Michael Wilson, maybe another bum after that, and perhaps step it up a little to maintain his marketability, maintain his rankings in the various sanctioning bodies, and in a year and a half or so, he can weigh up his position in the division and maybe make an informed choice on what route he wants to go to make money, or if he wants to fight for titles. It's just modern day boxing. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'd rather see the HRGOVIC fight. Michael Wilson is ranked number 12. This can't be an eliminator for AJ's belt. It surely can't. I mean, Michael Hunter himself is ranked number 6. You can't have an eliminator for the main belt with a challenger ranked number 6 and number 12, surely. So this, I believe, is for a shot at Trevor Bryan. I'm taking a shot in the dark here. Don't really care if I've got it wrong. Don't correct me, please, because I could research it and get it right, but I don't think alphabet politics deserve my attention like that. I've got other things to do. And yo, listen, it's on the Triller undercard to Kambosos, so out of that $6 million pot that Team Lopez secured, he's got to break off Kambosos a percentage of that as the mandatory challenger. And, you know, Michael Hunter's going to get a nice purse too. Now, if Al Heyman is managing him, you can listen to my last video. You need somebody like Al to teach you, yeah, look, you can fight Mike Wilson for the same money you get taking a big risk against HRGOVIC. People are asking questions on Twitter. Huge shame, this Hunter situation, to be honest. I had high hopes for Hunter bringing some long-needed credibility to the US heavyweight scene. Tut tut, they'll just have to wait on Team Big Baby to come through the ranks and see if he's the real deal. Michael Hunter, he replied with 4 love hearts to Boxing Squared, who tweeted that Mike disabled his comments because he couldn't handle the backlash. Somebody replied to Mike, make that run at Bridgerweight, leave those giants alone. Another person replied, obviously a better payday for him. Another person replied, what? Nowhere near the payday he would get for a fight against Fury AJ winner. IBF don't play around with their mandatories. That's a point. The Fury and AJ payday is big, but when's it going to happen? Another person says, this is just embarrassing. What happened to the I'll fight White for free stuff? No one will take him seriously anymore. Somebody replied, was just thinking that, lost all cred. Another person replies, fair play to Hunter getting that money. But he has now to abandon that nobody wants to fight me talk. You see? All that throwback reputation he had, boogeyman reputation. Somebody's asking, why has he done this? A bigger purse? Somebody replies to that, proper, a big fee for no risk. Risk reward, yes indeed. Somebody else says, I thought you was hitting him so hard in your video. Wow. Seems it's a unanimous decision. Ducking the HRGOVIC fight and taking a shit fight. Pissed everyone. Somebody else says, if you talk the talk, then you have to walk the walk. He has talked so much. Now he can't deal with being called out of a blatant duck. Someone else says, sad times for the bounty hunter. Someone replies to that, exactly. Yeah. So from everyone's hero, throwback, boogeyman, to zero. He might be getting that Triller money, but his team need to get him his street cred back. Daniel Dubois, he's taking on Bogdan Dino for the interim belt because Manuel Chart is currently the champion in recess. Fucking mess, isn't it? He's a real mess. I'm just looking at it. He's like, whoa, bro. Hurting my eyes. Now, I've done some research on Michael Wilson, and apparently he has 20 wins. Joseph Parker said he's open to the possibility of fighting HRGOVIC for the final eliminator against AJ with the IBF. He's ranked number 5. I don't think Charles Martin is interested in the HRGOVIC fight, and he's ranked at number 2. So Parker, you know, he could step in and take his chance. I'm not sure if he's as good a fighter as Michael Hunter, but he might be more willing to prove himself against the likes of HRGOVIC. He might be. Now they've dropped Michael Hunter down to 11, the IBF, with Charles Martin there at number 2. HRGOVIC there at number 4. Why isn't Charles Martin putting his name in the hat to fight HRGOVIC before Parker? I mean, he's ranked higher than Parker. I think he was ranked ahead of Michael Hunter even before they dropped Hunter out of the rankings. I think he was number 2 when Hunter was in line to fight HRGOVIC. If you're ranked number 2 and you haven't pitched in for the eliminator, I can see what's happening here. Now, are these guys just shit scared of HRGOVIC? Maybe so. Maybe he is as good as that nutcase who trolls my channel says he is. Alexander Krusak, Usyk's man, is apparently saying that Usyk might fight HRGOVIC for the IBF eliminator. That's not a confirmed source. I'm not sure about the source that I got that from on Twitter. But if there is something in it, what happens to Joe Joyce's fight for the interim IBF belt? He gets screwed over, I guess. Team Usyk have never wanted that fight. To me, it's all about money. They've been trying to hold out to get AJ in the ring because that's obviously the retirement plan money. But if they fight HRGOVIC, it's probably just as much of a risk as fighting Joyce. And the purse that Usyk will get for either fight, I don't think will be too dissimilar. Joyce for the WBO or HRGOVIC for the IBF. Neither is a big purse. To me, it sounds like Team Usyk are just stalling for time, hoping that AJ and Fury falls apart. Desperate for that to happen. And they're just trying to stall for time. But soon they're going to have to commit to one of these fights, whether it's Joyce for a WBO eliminator or HRGOVIC for an IBF. They're going to have to make a decision and take a real fight. I saw Jose Ramirez practicing slipping headshots, then coming back with combinations. Ben Davidson's reputation is on the line. Is he a better coach than Shane McGuigan? I have my doubts, but we'll see. Apparently Ben Davidson is actually training Devin Haney. I don't know if it's full-time, but they're getting some sessions in together. Can Josh Taylor bring all 4 belts back to Britain at 140? It's all about temperament and nerves. I would advise him, if possible, to be like a machine out there. Don't throw no sloppy punches. And Ramirez is he'll be relying on what a lot of Mexicans believe is naivety from non-Mexicans who ain't worked out how to fight Mexicans. He'll be hoping that Josh throws some reckless right hands, some lazy right hands, falls in with his punches, and ends up fighting Ramirez's fight. I've got no problem if Josh Taylor fights Ramirez in the pocket, as long as it's an informed decision, not because he's got drawn into the pocket, but he's got to fight on his terms. Can't let Ramirez dictate the tactics or the terms, or the pace I should say. Can't let him do that. So he can fight on the inside, but it's got to be an informed choice when you want to do it, not when he wants to do it. Just like if he wants to box on the back foot, once again, it's got to be an informed decision that he makes. He doesn't want to get forced on the back foot. He wants to be able to do all these things on his terms. And he didn't look his best, Ramirez, against Victor Postol last year. He didn't look his best. It was a close fight. I think I may have had Postol up. Josh Taylor had a lot of evenly contested rounds with Postol, but he pulled away in the end. Ramirez was never really able to separate himself in terms of skills, even all the way, Postol and Ramirez, as far as I remember. A lot of people disagreed with me, but it was a majority decision. Taylor hasn't been that busy himself. 1 fight last year, 2 fights in 2019. The one of more significance was Prograis. They've both been inactive. Similarly, 2 fights in 2019 for Ramirez and 1 in 2020. And let's face it, the fight that Josh had in 2020 against the Thai fighter was not a fight. It lasted a couple of seconds. Josh caught his taller opponent on the ropes with that devastating body shot. And that was all she wrote. As Blue Collar Boxing said, Josh has got that kind of temperament that if you catch him with a good shot, he wants get back and he's going to go after you. And once again, he can't react to things like that. He's got to do things on his own terms, even if his more exuberant nature is telling him, yo, he hit you, hit him back. Like, there's a few people, media as well, probably pro Josh Taylor, who are hoping that he will keep it long. I don't think a lot of them are actually checking the stats. Ramirez actually has a longer reach than Josh Taylor. Taylor has a 69.5-inch reach, which is not very long for a light welter. Ramirez apparently has a 72-inch reach, and they're the same height. And we're automatically expecting the Mexican to come forward and be really aggressive. And I think that's a given. He's going to be aggressive, but he might try to control range too because he's got the longer reach. So watch out for that. Josh Taylor might not actually be able to just box at his leisure. He might have to fight the Mexican's fight, let's say. He may well have to. Not that Josh Taylor needs much persuading to fight in a phone booth. Right now they're talking about a flipping Mexican jinx, aren't they? You know what I mean? Like Robbie Davis was recently upset by the Mexican Venezuela. You had Josh Warrington against Lara. You also had James Tennyson the other day against some unheralded Mexican getting knocked out. So Josh Taylor, you know what I mean? He's up against it. He's up against it. Anyway, undisputed, all 4 belts are on the line. I'm expecting a really good scrap. I'm not making a prediction because Ramirez being 26-0, Josh Taylor 17-0. Both seem to be really good fighters. If you're going off the performances against Postol, common opponents, I don't know if there's more common opponents between them. You'd probably pick Josh Taylor, but, you know, triangle theories don't always run like that. So I'm just going to enjoy this one. I believe Josh Taylor can win it, but I don't know how the fight's going to play out, because if Ramirez is a better boxer than expected on the night, I think it's going to be a fair assumption to assume he'll hold his own on the inside. He could upset Josh Taylor, just saying. Can Josh Taylor out-Mexican style the Mexican? If he does, it would be a fabulous win for a Scottish fighter, a British fighter. An absolute outstanding win.
I'm not looking for a penny more than I'm owed, but I also don't want a penny less. And I know what some fighters who have been paid, and and I'm not talking about Callum or Billy, because at the end of the day, I feel like Eddie kind of sold them out for a little bit of money. And I'm already making great money. I'm already a 7-figure fighter a couple times over. So as far as,
Stop. I don't know, language like sold out just seems wrong. And it makes me wonder if Caleb is just trying to impress many of the black boxers.
On a PBC?
Eddie sold out his boxers for $8 to $10 million purses against Canelo. Don't sound right. Doesn't sit right with me hearing Caleb Plant say that. Let's start with the fact that Billy Joe Saunders has been a pro since 2009. If you are not ready to fight for the unified super middleweight title after 11 years as a pro, then what are you doing? 11 years? You need someone to sell you out if you haven't made the move yourself yet. Callum Smith's been a pro for 9. I mean, this guy's holding that IBF belt hostage for Al Heyman, talking about being sold out and language like that. That's language that Wilder and the Charlos and Errol Spence would use. But, I don't know. Maybe Caleb sees himself as a Black Murderers Row fighter or something like that. This guy's talking like he's fighting against the man. I'm not selling out. Eddie's selling out boxers. Let's start with you're the same complexion as Eddie. Yeah? It sounds like he's trying to use that slave driver talk that some of the PBC fighters use. If anyone is selling anybody short, it's Caleb fighting Cigarette Butts or whatever his name was, and Mike Lee selling out. Look, nobody believes Caleb is going to beat Canelo. He hasn't done anything in his career like challenging himself. He's done nothing to suggest he can beat Canelo. So more than likely, he will be selling the belt to Canelo. But that doesn't make Caleb a slave. And he shouldn't be talking like this, bragging that he's a 7-figure fighter twice over. But who have you fought? That's what the fans want to know. Why are you bringing up that you're a 7-figure athlete twice over? Why are you bringing that up? And then people want to say, you're always watching the next man's pockets and shit. No, they keep bringing up money when we're trying to talk boxing. The boxers keep bringing it up. Do these boxers understand that being a so-called world champion is not a title where you continue your apprenticeship fighting Mike Lee and Cigarette Butts and whoever else you're fighting? You've got to step up. You're supposed to step up and fight unifications. Have we lost track of that? Is that become a dirty word now? Testing yourself in boxing. It's not a training belt. It's a world championship belt, supposedly. Trying too hard to fit in there, bruh. You're trying too hard to fit in. And you're making a mockery of the fighters who maybe did have to sell out just to get a shot at the title. Jake LaMotta had to throw a fight against Billy Fox in the 50s when the mob was running boxing. The mob squeezed Ike Williams dry and tried to get him to throw a whole load of fights. Talking about sold out. How dare you use language like that? Let me tell you who sold out. Archie Moore had to give up 10% of his earnings forever how long to Jack Cairns, who used to manage Joey Maxim to get a title shot. Joe Louis had to give up 10% of his earnings to James J. Braddock, who was the champion, for 10 years. And you want to talk about selling out? No boxer in 2020 should be using language like this. For an $8 million purse, and you've done nothing in your career, he's probably going to get more than 8. He could probably get 10. How much did he think that belt's worth? 20? No, you don't deserve 20. 10 million is enough. Selling out, I wouldn't call it that. I'd say it's more just holding the belt hostage. It's disgusting. A few more people are coming round to the idea that Anthony Joshua can beat Tyson Fury when they finally face each other. FILIP, heavyweight contender, he believes Joshua can overcome the odds and beat Fury. Now, we're waiting for an announcement to be made, hopefully very soon. He believes Joshua has the advantage. He says he's a much better boxer than most people give him credit for. He said people are picking Fury and writing off Anthony Joshua and are giving Fury the advantage because of their last performances. They say Joshua has slowed down, but in HRGOVIC's opinion, Joshua has more tools. He's the bigger puncher, throws more combinations. He's good with the jab and fast with his feet. He's better at inside fighting. Fury has his awkward style, but that's all he has. Joshua is the more complete fighter. He gives a little edge to Joshua. Interesting. David Hay, he says Joshua will beat Tyson Fury because he is physically superior. He said the skilled boxer doesn't always win. The boxer with speed, endurance, will to win, strategy, who was trained correctly. There are a million elements that go into winning a boxing match, but people will ignore everything except skills. Well, he's breaking it down a little different to HRGOVIC. HRGOVIC seemed to think that AJ has more skills than people give him credit for. Hay is saying it's Joshua's physical attributes that will win him the fight. Interesting. A lot of people may say, well, Joshua better not get too big-headed or complacent. Most boxers have unrealistic expectations. Like Tyson Fury said he's going to take AJ out in 3. And if he hasn't done so, he'll sit down in his corner and quit. Now, that could happen, but most people don't think it's going to be that quick a night for Tyson Fury. Unless AJ scores the knockout. The KO percentage and the knockout resume is in AJ's favor for an early win, surely. The better odds on success for Fury will be something that you're probably forecast in the later rounds or a distance fight. You just got to look at the stats. Knockout percentages, the level of opponents knocked out between the two men. And look, people saying, well, AJ better not get too confident. Well, which one is it? Some people are saying he doesn't have no confidence because of the Ruiz fight. And now some of you are saying, he better not get too confident. So they're talking about the 14th of August, 50-50 split, 53 million apiece. They will also earn bonuses based on pay-per-view sales. 2-fight deal. The purse for the rematch will be split 60-40 in favor of the first bout's winner. The news has just broke that the fight will take place in a stadium. This is very recent news. Hearn describes it as a done deal, although it is yet to be officially confirmed by both sides. The promoter insists the focus is now on building a brand new venue to stage the historic fight. They want to build a new stadium, Hearn told Sky Sports about the hosts in Saudi Arabia. They have indoor options. In August at 11 p.m. it will be 23 degrees. They want to create something very special. Last time they built a stadium for the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight in just 7 weeks, and it held 18,000. This will be a similar setup. They have the opportunity to hold it indoors, but they want to create something that will shock the world. They want to build a stadium just for this fight. August the 7th will ensure that Rob McCracken, who also coaches Team GB's, Great Britain's boxing team, will avoid a conflict of interest, as he would have to coach the boxers in the Olympics if the bout takes place in either June or July. The religious celebration of Eid. The celebration is the only reason that Fury's team have not yet received full financial documents from the hosts, says Eddie Hearn.
And I think you're going to get a different AJ in this build-up. I think he's excited because he's never really, other than the Dillian White fight, he's not really been in a sort of that kind of trash talk environment. I think he wants to be in that environment. I think he's got his own plans for Tyson Fury. I think he's going to enjoy it. There was part of me, Tyson Fury's very good at what he does in and out of the ring. But I think maybe if this fight was made 6 months ago, it might be slightly different now. But AJ's got the bit between his teeth, goading him a little bit. I'm sure these two DM each other. goading each other backwards and forwards. I mean, I get DMs from Tyson Fury. Sometimes are pleasant, sometimes are unpleasant.
But then you go and meet him in Vegas for a coffee, and it was good.
Yeah, but I think he just realised, like, we're all doing all we can to make this fight, and it's going to be very beneficial to the both of them, not just financially, but from a legacy point of view as well. So, but when the announcement comes and when the press conferences start, I think those pleasantries will go away, and it becomes a little bit personal, because it doesn't matter who respects who. Both sides absolutely desperate to win, because this is everything. You know, this is the undisputed heavyweight world championship. So there's no fun and games. There's no, oh, thanks, yeah, good to see you, mate. Thanks for sorting this fight. It's them and us, basically, and war. And AJ will be going to war with Tyson Fury, and he has plans to go in there and absolutely demolish him. And that's what he's planning to do. That's what I believe he's going to do. In the meantime, we've got to go through the build-up, which is going to be a lot of fun, and get prepared for the biggest sporting event of 2021.